NXG lightning advisory rounds. But before I do, I want to step back and give you guys a little bit more context. So we first introduced LavVIEW NXG to the market in 2017. And over the past 2 years, we've added a lot of functionality and features or advancements into the product. So with 2.0, we've added things like the vision module, app builder, object-oriented programming, the web module, or the web VIs. 6 months later, we followed up with 3.0 with things like the FPGA module, the ability to call .NET assemblies, the interface for MATLAB, and much more. And then we just released, 6 months later, we just released 3.1, where we've done things like interacting with the command line module, or the command line tools, flexible layout for web VIs, the tree control, and tons more features. So we've added a lot of, we've been able to add a lot of capabilities in the product pretty quickly. And one of the major factors in us being able to do that is that we've been hard at work evolving our design and development processes behind the scenes. So we've added specialized roles like software designers and UX researchers. And we've evolved the way we're doing things like gathering user insights to really uncover deeper needs and ideating on ideas and solutions and getting ideas and slices of that functionality out to you guys quickly so we can get your feedback, we can refine it, we can iterate on it to end up with a better end solution. And we're doing usability testing, we're analyzing product analytics on different levels to really make sure that the solutions we're building meet your workflow needs. Now, one of the specialized roles that we've introduced to drive a lot of this process is the product owner. So, or PO for short. So for you, those who aren't familiar with product owners, it's a role on an agile team that's basically accountable for how functionality surfaces in the product to meet a user's needs. So, POs not only have a strong hand in how we're building the product, but also in how we're prioritizing and staging that functionality in. And to do that, we really need to understand our users' goals. Like your pain points, your needs, your challenges, the environments that you're working in, the tools that you want to use, things that you want to integrate with. And so, we really want to be able to represent those needs and those perspectives with the development teams as we're designing features and as we're making those micro-level optimizations to ensure that the product we're building actually fits with the workflows in ways that you would expect. So this is your amazing, incredible team of product owners that's shaping the direction of LavVIEW NXG to be the intuitive, yet incredibly capable software engineering tool for you. So we're engaging with you, our users, in a ton of different ways. We're coming to your sites to see what you're doing, to see you in work, observe your workflows, understand your application. We're doing tons of interviews, usability settings, interacting with you on the forum. And a ton of different things, and there's ways that you can reach back to us to give us feedback. So one of those is in-product feedback. So as you notice right here in that top bar of NXG, you can give us feedback directly that goes direct to the R&D team. There's also the customer experience program. If you're installing LavVIEW or LavVIEW NXG, you can sign up for that. It gives us a ton of information about how you're using the product that's helping us drive priorities in what we work on. And of course, how many of you guys are signed up for the tech preview? Awesome. So I encourage you to sign up for that. That's where we're releasing a ton of new beta features. We'd love to get ideas in front of you, get your feedback, iterate on that. Okay, so the rest of this presentation, we're going to do lightning rounds. So what that means is that a couple of the POs are going to get up and present to you on how we're incorporating your feedback into the product, and then kind of live, real-time, poll the audience for data to help us define and prioritize future work. And we're not going to take questions during these presentations, but we'll make sure to leave time at the end for those of you to ask any questions to find your PO of choice to wrangle down. And we'll cover a ton of different topics, or a bunch of different topics during this, some of which you may have feedback on, some of which you may not. But the point is, what we really want you to walk away from this presentation with is that we want to engage with you. We want to hear from you. Now, another intention of this presentation is for you to get to know your POs. So you will hear a random fact about every presenter. So for me, I used to manage our LEGO Mindstorms and LEGO Review development. And out of that sparked this whole passion that I didn't even know existed for taking these kind of tools and learning opportunities to kids in underserved areas of the world. So I started this nonprofit in 2014 called Science in a Suitcase. The idea being you stuff a bunch of science and engineering experiments and robotics tools into a suitcase and drag it off to some far off corner of the world and inspire kids for what's possible and expose them to new ways of thinking. So I've jobbed my husband up there and a ton of different NIers across India to do programs in different orphanages and schools in Vietnam and Cambodia. And we just got back from a school in South Africa. That was a really phenomenal experience. So that's a little bit about me. The other thing you may have noticed is that everyone has a bingo card on your seat. So as an added challenge, we've given the POs a couple of Austin-themed bingo words that they have to weave into their presentations. Words like Austin City Limits, or Franklin's Barbecue. So as you hear one of us, like I just did, say those words, you have them on your bingo card, mark them off. And if you get bingo, shout out bingo, and we'll hand you one of these index cards that the first 16 of you can turn in at the end for a prize. Now the words on the slide do not count. The other thing you might notice is on the back, there is an opportunity for you to let us know if you're open to us contacting you later to have a deeper conversation about any of those topics or a topic of your choice. All right, so without further ado, I will hand it over to our studio.
All right, so my name is John Samuelson. I'm going to talk a little bit about in-product feedback and palette usability. So I'm the product owner for the mainstream data flow programming. What that means is most of the G diagram language comes to the squads that I work with, as well as a lot of the IDE, the palettes. So a lot of the editor and diagram interactions are handled by my squads, as well as third-party IP integration. So my random fact, my first job when I was a kid was detasseling corn. So if you're not from the Midwest, you might want to Google what that is, but I essentially pulled tassels out of every single stalk of corn in a row and back and forth all morning in the hot sun. So an important thing to note with LavVIEW and LavVIEW NXG. So LavVIEW NXG utilizes the same low-level compilation and execution system that LavVIEW does. So it's essentially a rewrite of the editor on top of the compiler and runtime system. So we get all the years of goodness of execution and speed improvements that we put in the product, but we essentially have to remake every bit of the editor on top of those bits. And so it provides the POs a lot of challenges and choices of deciding, okay, what are some of the little micro interaction features that we need to put in the product that everybody uses every day. So let's talk a little bit about in-product feedback. What happens when you push that little frowny face and say, hey, I wish this was better? So it goes into our user research team, their database, and they kind of farm out every single piece of user feedback and send it to the applicable PO. And because my squads handle kind of the editor and basic diagram principles, I get a lot of that feedback. And I actually read every single one of them and then try to categorize them in things like, oh, this is a feature request, or this might be a bug that we should fix, or hey, we're already fixing these things. And all of that feedback really helps me prioritize some of the things that may be important to some users versus a lot of users. And so I'm going to walk through some of the things that we put in the product over the course of the last couple of years that I saw multiple entries from in-product feedback. So one of the first things and most common things we see in product feedback, as well as some of the test labs, is that when users were hovering over items in the palette trying to figure out what they weren't seeing the connector pane information in context help like they're used to in LavVIEW. They basically thought they were trying to program like they were blind as a Congress happened in fact. So what we decided is that we need to give that information to the user. So if you were to download the NXG 4.0 beta when that comes out shortly, you may or may not see an info tip that provides that information right where you're looking in the palette. So instead of having to, look at a context help window way off on one screen and your palette on the other, we can provide that information for you right where you're looking. Another thing that we've put into the product has been the in-place items, or unplaced items, excuse me. So if you drop a lot of controls on your front panel and design your UI and then go to your diagram, we kind of put all of those terminals in a tray so they're nicely organized and you can drag them onto your diagram. The problem is if you put 10 or 12 items in that tray and then you want to go program, you have to drag each one out individually, one at a time. It becomes pretty tedious. So in LavVIEW 3.1, if you have a front panel like this and you go to your diagram and you look at your unplaced items tray, there's a little button up there that you can click and drag everything out at once. All your controls on the left, indicators on the right, a little make space, and you're ready to code. So this might look like some Austin street art, but it's kind of reminiscent of some of the feedback that we get when people first saw LavVIEW NXG. Oh, it's really gray, I miss some of the colors, those types of things. The color scheme is actually intentional. We wanted the editor to kind of fade away and have your diagram be where we put vibrant colors, and that's where your focus should be, and the editor should support your diagrams. But we noticed that we could probably add a little bit of color to have some more meaning in different spots throughout the diagram. So again, if you look at a 4.0 beta that should be released shortly, you may or may not see constants on the diagram are actually going to have a little bit more color on the borders. We've revamped our node banner iconography to change some of those gray lines and have them represent a little bit more color, a little bit more vibrant, and give you information about what the data type is, what the API is. So another kind of fun fact is my first week at NI was the week after NIWeek in 2008. So I go into LavVIEW training my first day, and we fire up a brand new version of LavVIEW 8.6. And my instructor says, hey, don't worry about searching for stuff. Just use this control space shortcut that's brand new. So I really didn't know a world without quick drop. So I kind of use it a lot in my work. And so that's another thing that's very frequent in product feedback is, oh, I missed the replace and rewire, or the delete and rewire, or the replace, the inserts. A lot of the things that my squad did this last few releases is to really integrate those quick drop workflows into the product. So we're going to see a little workflow here. I'm going to walk through some of the context palette search options that should replace those quick drop workflows. So control space will still bring up the palette search, and so here I'm going to type in UDP open and drop a UDP node. And when you open something, you obviously have to close it, so I'm going to do the same thing. And if I close, it's on my mouse, I can click and drop just like that. But now if I want to automatically wire them, I just select and push Control J instead of a complicated shortcut. If I want to insert a read in there, I can right-click on the reference wire, type in read, and you'll see that we've actually sorted UDP read at the top of the results, so because it's related to the nodes that you're selected to. So to insert, you right-click on the wire and type in, and you insert, and you automatically wire the error wire. Here, I right-click on a node or a terminal and type toString because I know that I want to wire a byte array toString to that node. It automatically drops and it's wired. The next thing I'm going to do is insert I'm going to replace the UDP open with the UDP multitask. So now I just right-click on the node and start typing and hit enter when I find what I want, and it replaces that node instead of having to select, quick drop, find something, and push control. Here I'm going to insert a write node, really just so that I can show you that you select a node, push control delete, and it automatically deletes and rewires in place. We built in the search functionality into all of our right-click palettes, even the normal right-click palettes. So when I right-click, I can instantly just start typing to find a node. So here I can right-click, type CS, which is this quick drop shortcut for case structure, and control and drag. So hopefully, instead of having to do with your left hand, control space, CS, and click, now you can right-click and type CS and be ready to wire. Maybe we'll save you a millisecond, and when you do that 1,000 times, we'll save you 1 second. All right, that was a mouthful. Okay, so a lot of people here develop APIs on their own, and when you do that, you typically try to distinguish them by, say, an API color. So if we were to be doing an API that, say, talked to databases in the next version of LavVIEW NXG, and we had to pick a data type color for the API, we're going to do a really quick informal poll. I'm going to ask 1, 2, 3, 4, what color would you want a database API to be in LavVIEW NXG? So number 1, number 2, 3, or 4? Okay? That's all right. Blue. My wife's in custom clothing, and she says guys have 12 pairs of blue shirts, and that's the only thing they ever have, so it makes sense. All right, that's all I have. I'm going to pass it off to Christina.
Thanks, John. Hi, I'm Christina Rogers. I am the product owner for LavVIEW NXG front panels, user interface design, including programming for user interfaces for both desktop and web. I've been in LavVIEW R&D for 22 years, come next month. I've been a developer, UX engineer. Now as a product owner, I'm honored to represent your perspective as we're doing design discussions with the developers. Random fact about me, around 2006, I started a LavVIEW technical blog called Eyes on VIs, largely because NI was marketing the new object-oriented programming in LavVIEw as some advanced language feature, and I really wanted an opportunity to evangelize classes as being, objects as being something that anyone using a type dev could get value out of. So how many people have used the tree control in LavVIEw? It's a pretty useful control. It's hierarchies, things, children, parents, under parents. How many people think it's one of the easiest controls in LavVIEw to use? So I've got a lot of feedback over the years that the tree control is pretty intimidating. It has a lot of right-click menus, it has a lot of properties, it has a lot of methods. And people who are trying to use it for the first time say, I just want to programmatically put text in the cells. How do I do that? What's the data structure I give to the tree to populate the cells? And it's like, well, the closest thing we have to a data structure for that is the structure that you could pass to add multiple items to end, which is not the easiest data structure to understand. The cells are kind of separated out into two fields. So we wanted to use LavVIEW NXG as an opportunity to rethink the tree control. If we're going to add the tree control to NXG, what could we do differently? And we asked ourselves, well, what if instead of the terminal representing the selection, like it does in LavVIEW, we made the terminal represent the content of the cells, and we made selection become a property of the control. Now, LavVIEW NXG already had a data grid that was using the terminal with the data type to represent the cells, which is an array of clusters where each element of the cluster represents a value for a column. So we made it so that the tree control could take that exact same data structure and look very similar, and added the ability to put in a delimiter to that first cell element of the cluster to denote that it was a parent-child relationship. We chose the backslash character. So you can see here I've put the spasmatics under a category called musical acts and movie theater under a category called venues. Now, what you'll see in NXG 3.1, where we are introducing this tree control, is just the first step on a journey. There's so much more that we know we want to add to the tree control. Here's just some of the things that we've already discussed in LavVIEW R&D. Having that backslash character be reserved for the hierarchy is unfortunate if you want to display a backslash character in your first cell. So we know we need to make a way for the item name to be separate from that designation of a hierarchical location. We have row selection for the tree. We know we want to add another mode that lets you do checkbox selection, which is especially useful when you're selecting multiple items. We want to support more cell data types. Now, the data grid already supports some of these, like numerics. The tree in 3.1 only supports text, string data type. We know we want to be able to do sorting and filtering built into the tree. This is another thing that people have asked for in the LavVIEW tree that we haven't provided. We want to be able to hide columns so that you could have extra metadata associated with your item. So if you wanted to give it a unique identifier, you could place that as an item in your cluster and just not display it on your tree. We know we need to be able to customize cell appearance so that you can, for example, do like alarm states where you want to highlight color on cells. People want to be able to edit lists with their trees. This is something you have to do with a multi-column list box and a lot of programming in LavVIEW today, that you want to be able to insert, delete, move items around. We know we need helper APIs, like being able to do the tree traversal of items. And we know we'll need drag and drop, not only for the first one, or the previous one where you're moving items within the tree, but you want to be able to drag and drop to and from other controls. So this is not something I can just say, let's go do in one release of NXG in 6 months. So what I would like is help prioritizing what you think the next objective for the tree should be. In the NXG 3.1 release, I prioritized the first one, being able to display test results with a hierarchical organization. I didn't actually require for that release that we have item selection at all, but we did get single item selection into the 3.1 release. For this upcoming release that you can check out the beta for very soon, I prioritize being able to select items for doing like a master detail. So in that release, we'll be adding multiple item selection and the selection change event. So I have 4 things I'm going to read off, and I want you then to vote for which one you think should be the next on my roadmap. I need to edit items quickly within my grid. This would help me prioritize things like being able to support numerics and drop downs and being able to edit directly in those cells quickly. I need to create, remove, and edit steps of a sequence. This would be helping me prioritize. I need like right-click, insert, being able to drag, reorder items within the tree. C is I need to represent hierarchies in databases and file systems. If this is the next thing I should go after, then I should be looking at APIs to help you translate information in databases and file systems into the tree data type. And D is I need to handle many items. This is so common for me that sorting and filtering is the most important thing that I should go after next. So show of hands, how many people would like to vote for option A? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you. And option B? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And option C? And option D? 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you very much. If you have any other questions or comments about the tree control or any other user interface thing, please come find me afterwards. Now I'll turn it over to Darren.
All right, thanks, Christina. Who am I? I'm Darren Gillis. I'm the product owner for the LavVIEW NXG web module. So I work closely with Christina. She's working more on the control side. I'm working more on the diagram and the overall workflow of building WebVIs. I've also, if we have web-related features that we need in LavVIEW 2019, say 2020, I also work on that as needed to help us build awesome web applications. Some things about me: I presented at South by Southwest 3 times. It was great. Love that experience. And I've been at NI for now 17 years. And I don't work in Austin. I work in Dallas, which is kind of funny. I just work remotely. I dial into meetings all the time. So my wife lives in Dallas. We actually got a job up there, so we all went up there. And it's working out quite well. I've had 4 different careers in NI: as a coder, a manager in the UX team, and a product owner. So I've kind of done a little bit of everything. I've been all over the LavVIEW R&D team the whole time. I haven't really left LavVIEW R&D. I've just done different things at different times. So my random fact is I've had 17 years of different kinds of desks. This is where I started, with a classic funny ergonomic white keyboard and some square monitors, and then a junky-ish Dell laptop. I've now eventually got the multiple monitors going, and it's, I think a lot of us in the room maybe have multiple monitors, and of course wonderful mouse stands, like pile of books. The standing desk is very trendy, which is nice. And now that I work at home, I still have my multiple desks, multiple monitors, but I also have a desk with, I need a pool noodle to keep my arms from getting too chafed on the edge of the desk there. So, it's interesting to me just to see the different environments I've worked in over time. How it's changed. But enough about that. So I'm going to talk about what you and what you can do and what I want to hear today. So I know I've talked to several of you here. Maybe just a quick show of hands. Who has made a WebVI before? Not so many. Okay, well, I'll go briefly, but I'll kind of give you a quick introduction of what I'm even talking about. So if you have a LavVIEW UI, you like, it's great, but you also just want to view it from somewhere else, maybe another part of the world, down the street, at a cafe. Maybe you're having a burger at Casino El Camino down the street, and you just want to happen to look at that panel and examine a little more closely, or look at an iPad or a mobile device. This is where WebVIs come in hand, and you can have your LavVIEW application. That's fine, and you can publish your data through a web protocol and have a separate WebVI and use LavVIEW and LavVIEW NXG WebVIs together in conjunction. You don't have to port code over to use that. Who's familiar with this screen? Quite a few. So this is what you see with row panels if you didn't have the plugin installed. So the plugin is 200 megabytes or so, and it works on certain different browsers. This is our solution before that problem. I want to view my same panel over there while using row panels. Well, now we have the web module, and we feel like it's a better technological solution. It's built on open web standards, and it's much more flexible. It's not a dead-end blind canyon. There's many things you can extend with JavaScript and such. And you don't need to become a web developer. You use your LavVIEW skills to build it, and that's what's really critical to know about this. So to get your feedback on this stuff. We have a web module forum right here, the lead user forum. If you just sign in there, we'll basically just grant you access to that. It's just a place to talk about things about the WebVI side of the house. And we also have done things like recruit for usability studies from this place. And we can do this remotely. Just like I work remotely, you can participate in the usability study remotely from your desk. It's super easy. We give you a remote desktop to a machine, and then we walk you through some steps. And I'll share one success story from us doing that. So one, for those of you who have built a WebVI in the past, you may be remembering this, like, how do you actually run it in a browser? Actually, it was kind of challenging. You had to go find a system designer. So if you're in the project, it was not your component and not your WebVI itself. A system designer, you had to go then find the web server target. You had to then find the component on that target. You had to right-click on it and find this one run command. It was not the easiest thing to remember. And so in our usability studies, 5 out of 5 participants could never remember how to do this, even though they had previously done it before and had been taught that way to find it, right? So we knew this was something we should do something about. So I want to tell you how we improved upon this in NXG 3.1. We added a new split run button up here. You drop down and you can now go quickly to the browser. And it's been really, really handy so far, positive feedback on that. The story of that is that really this feedback came in December. That was not that long ago. That was 6 months ago, where we said, hey, there's a problem. People are struggling. What do? We don't have that much time left in the release. So we basically did a really quick iteration of brainstorming across many of the POs and many of our tech leads and developers. And we came up with a solution. We got the code submitted just a couple months later, and we got all our V&V and stuff done to productize it, and now it's here and it's in the product, and we're showing off in NIWeek. I love it. So that's what usability studies can do. If you want to participate and help form our direction, even if you're not specifically asking for something, if we watch you struggle, we'll try and diagnose why you were struggling and try and do something about it. Having those things on hand is really helpful for us. So please, if you have an opportunity, participate in such a thing. This is what it looks like in practice when you run it. All right, so we each have a survey at the end of sorts. So I have kind of a hodgepodge survey. I'm going to have 4 different votes I want to quickly take about how do you feel about WebVIs in terms of third-party integration. So the first one, I guess if you could raise your hands if you have a web server and you want to serve up your UI, if you just have a Windows machine and NI built the web server for you and installed it, is that good enough for you? Raise your hands. That meets your requirements. 4 or 5. All right, so the second one is like, actually, I really need to be able to find a third-party server. And by third-party, I mean like a custom Apache install or a Microsoft IIS or some other web server that already installed and running, maybe on an operating system that's not Windows like Linux. You could raise your hand on that. That would be helpful. Touch more, maybe 6 to 5, I think. All right. And then maybe the next thing is that I have a panel on the web. We have the capability to pull JavaScript-based controls on our panel. So things that NI did not make, you can put them on a WebVI panel, which is pretty fun and exciting. But do you really need to do it? If you need to do it, I'd love to know. If you raise your hand, something you really can't get your job done otherwise. And then the last one is that you have some need to interface with some kind of protocol, whether it be some open source JavaScript, or you have some web protocol like WebRTC or something that NI doesn't quite yet embrace, but you can do that with JavaScript integration. Is that something, a requirement for you? You need to be able to do something like that to use a WebVI. 1 or 2. Okay, awesome. Thank you for the quick survey. With that, I think I'll hand off to NI Dallas employee number 2. So we're here with me.
Hi everyone, I'm Samina. I'm very glad to be a part of this awesome product owner team. And I want to take a second to thank everyone who's here for being present here and for giving us feedback over the years. Michael came up to me and said, see, I'm here, I care. And I really appreciate that. Thank you. A little bit about me. I am very passionate about hearing about your use cases, workflows for sharing reusable code, whether it's deploying to another machine or sharing amongst coworkers, add-ons, as well as source code control and continuous integration. And if you can't remember any of that, you can remember me as the person, one of the few, maybe 2 people, who still use the flip phone I think the other one is Willie Nelson. So a couple of years back, I realized that my smartphone was distracting me a lot. So I switched back to a flip phone, and now I actually run mindful use of technology workshops to help other people be less distracted from their phones. All right, just a quick poll. How many people share their code, whether it's binaries, applications, or sharing within a team? Right, okay, so somewhat relevant, right? Come talk to me afterwards, because even though we'll quickly go through this, I'm really interested in learning more about your use cases. I'll tell you a little bit of story about packaging applications and the workflows we enabled in the product. So we, NI, has invested in NI Package Manager as a technology we use to ship our software to you guys and share that with you guys. We wanted to make that ability available to you all too. So within LavVIEW NXG, you could create packages and deploy applications using packages and package-based installers. We made it available in NXG 2.1, and then we realized it wasn't exactly meeting all your expectations, even though the functionality was present. At various test labs, at NIWeek, at CLA Summit, we saw you guys struggle a little bit. You had done the bulk of the heavy lifting of creating your code and doing all of the coding in LavVIEW. It was the time where you were delighted to share this code with someone. And your experience wasn't quite meeting your expectations. It wasn't as easy to discover, intuitive. Also, it was very tedious. Sometimes it was easy to not do the complete right thing and then realize it much later and have to come back and redo it. So we saw a lot of these problems and then decided, okay, we need to do something about this. We ran a couple of usability studies. Some of these were remote, some of these were on campus at NI. We reached out to people like you who had given us permission to reach out to them about the topic. And we really saw people. We created a new design, prototyped it, and we saw people walk through that workflow before we implemented anything in the product. If you don't know about a usability study, it's basically you sitting in a room or remotely, working through a prototype, clicking through things. It helps us observe your mental models. Where do you go to find things? I'm actually not allowed in the room. Apparently I'm biased, and I might bias you as well. But it's really like watching a suspense movie at Alamo Drafthouse, because you never know what somebody might click on. So it was really helpful for us to understand your mental models, and it gave us the ability to come up with a new solution. It wasn't just a new UX. There was functionality that we put in here to solve the problems we saw you guys were facing. For example, if you're logged in as a user, we started autofilling your information, like your company name, your email addresses, and things like that. We noticed that people really didn't remember to add their dependencies to runtime or other kinds of things, so we started auto-calculating these things, so you don't take the installer to another machine, walk down the building and realize, oh, I actually forgot all of these other things. So some of those improvements have made here. This is actually shipping now, so please try it out. This is in LavVIEW NXG 3.1. Please try it out and give us more feedback. On the same note, I would like a little bit more help to refine this workflow further. So as a part of this, we also strive to pick right defaults for your file. We know you care about where your files are going on the next machine. And it's not always the first thing you think about, but you might have to come back later and fix it. Which you can still go and change it, but we would like to provide the best default we can. For example, we started picking defaults for applications to be program files, for libraries to be add-ons directory. But we aren't really sure what would you like for your support files. We can make a guess, but I would really like to poll the room to see where would you like your support files to be. When I say a support file, it means a file that is not LavVIEW, LavVIEW NXG file, not a licensed file or EULA, like a README or maybe some picture resources that you have. So a few options, and you can see them. First is public document. Second is next to application reusable library, if there is one in your package. Another one is temporary directory, and the fourth one is desktop. So quick show of hands, public documents folder. 2. Temporary directory. Next to applications and reusable libraries. Okay. And desktop. All right, we have a winner. Thank you all.
Yeah, but it's because we do it this way now.
Okay, awesome. I would love to talk to both of you, Michael and Dimitri, more about this right after. Thank you all.
Thanks. Okay, so I'm Taylor Richet. I am going to talk about OO usability a little bit. So I was the PO for the advanced language team last year, and we had some interesting, I noticed some interesting things in some of the test labs, so I want to go a little bit in detail about that. Someone asked me why I picked this picture. It's a sweet bird. That's all I got. Okay. I am from Baton Rouge. This is the old state capitol in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. It looks like a castle. It's apparently also haunted. I don't know how much stock you put in that. I had two friends who worked there. They both said when they had to close the place at night, doors closed and open on their own. That freaks me out. I didn't ask any other questions. But generally, I care about several things in my new role as the Applications and Libraries PO. One of them is applications and libraries. How do you distribute your code? How do you build EXEs? How do you make reusable chunks of code? How do you architect that? And what do you need to be successful in those tasks? The other one is asking forgiveness for PPLs. We're real sorry. I can't stress that enough. And then lastly is plugin architectures. This is actually the one I'm most excited about because I think this is the opportunity we have to really do some cool stuff in NXG and kind of push it beyond what we've seen before. Yeah. Oh, so I'm from Baton Rouge, but I've been in Austin now, keeping it weird for almost 20 years, and I've been in NI for about 8. So we continue to keep Austin weird all of the time. And my random fact is I love fermentation of all types. Like bread, love it. Like, you know, pickled onions, pickled pickles, great. Beer, wine, awesome. I have not gotten into distillation though, so I can't like make my own tequila for margaritas, but I do really like making beer, and that's a lot of fun. I also have made bread, I've made homemade pickles. I love it. If it has to do with yeast eating things and making things better, great. Okay, let's get to the real stuff. So, usability, right? This was a big thing for me when I came onto the advanced language team. Classes we worked really hard. My team was very focused on the performance of classes and getting the performance to really work. It's scale for lots of classes, but we weren't thinking a lot about the sort of friction there to actually use the classes in the product. So we actually, when I was observing in the test lab, we noticed a lot of frustration with people kind of getting this stuff going with our scripts and with our exercises. And I was like, this can't continue, right? We got to do something like, we have to change the prioritization. Like, performance is very important, and we still put a lot of effort into that, but we have to spend some time on some of these smaller, UI, like, friction-reducing tasks. So we listened, right? This was important, and we changed our priorities. And we actually moved several people on my team from focusing on performance to actually focusing solely on delivering these kind of user-visible things. So what did we actually change? Well, the first one is how you add members. We had in the class document a whole menu and all kinds of UI there to add members. We have these templates, right, for dynamic dispatch, APIs, properties, the whole bit. But what I noticed was a lot of people, the first thing you did was actually go to the class in the files pane and right click. And there was nothing there. So I was like, well, that doesn't seem right. Like the mental model is the right click that everyone has. Why are we forcing you to slow down to go jump to a completely other document? So we went ahead and added the members there. The second thing that I thought was really interesting was basically people wanting to create children. This is a very common task. So why do I have to create a new class, go find the thing, over in the document property, switch it over? Let's just put an accelerator here that when you create the child class, and sorry that menu still popped out, but when you create the child class, it pulls up the thing. If you have to do overrides, we have a dialog that lets you easily pick those overrides, and we make those templates. So these are just two very little things, and they were very easy for us to do. I think they, very much improved the usability of classes in NXG. And so there's a long list of these types of things that we've seen, we've observed, we've heard from you all in the test labs and just different discussions. So with that, I'm going to bring up Jeff, who is the current PO for advanced language.
All right. So I'm Jeff Peacock. I'm now the PO for the advanced language squad. I live in Toronto, so a little further away than our Dallas branch, but I still work with my team here, and I have a team in India as well. But we're focused on advanced language, and I want to talk about a little bit more that we can do to improve usability with classes. So in addition to classes, some of the other pieces that I'm focused on with advanced language, scripting, active framework, advanced OO, and the list goes on. So, random fact about me, in addition to living in Canada, the first version of LavVIEW that I ever used was 7 Express. The second version I used was 8.0, which caused me to decide to join NI to fix things in the future. So, so yeah. I want to have a quick little vote. First off, let's vote on who wants to ban those electric scooters. But the real thing that I want to vote on is we can do both of these as usability improvements. They're both things we're looking to do. I want to understand which of these things you guys want first. And so the top one is dotted properties. This is when you're using a property node to access your class data. Right now, if it's in a cluster, you have to mine down the several property nodes. This would allow you to do that all in one property node. The second one is similar to the create child class that Taylor was talking about. When you're building out that hierarchy of your classes, this would let you easily create a sibling class and duplicate the members and your class itself.
So this is like cloning.
Yes. All right. Who wants dotted properties first?
What's the dotted properties again?
This is, so in LavVIEW 2019, for example, if you have a cluster that has nested clusters, you can reach in multiple layers using, and once you've selected that, it just shows it as dotted elements inside a single property node, as opposed to having multiple property nodes reaching. And, yeah.
I like that.
All right. So who votes for dotted properties? All right. And who wants duplicate class? That is a pretty clear winner. All right.
All right. All right, awesome. So thank you, all the POs who presented, for giving us those quick lightning rounds. Now, some of you, they wove those Austin-themed words into their presentations so slyly that some of you may have missed them, or some of you that joined us late may not have heard all of them. So I'm going to go through the ones that we used already, and then maybe have to throw out a few more, because I don't hear any bingos. So as soon as you get bingo, shout it out. All right, Alamo Draft House, Austin City Limits, Franklin's Barbecue, Casino El Camino, Congress Avenue Bats, Margaritas, Street Art. Bingo. All right, we got it first. Come on up for your prize. Willie Nelson, The Spasmatics, Moody Theater, Keep Austin Weird, and South by Southwest. The electric scooters, I'm going to say.
I have a shirt for you, by the way. Don't just get it.
Yeah, bring your card up at the end for a shirt.
Congratulations.
All right, has anybody checked out Barton Springs Pool? And their short. Oh.
But I have checked it out.
Yeah, what about the Blanton Museum of Art? We had any breakfast tacos this morning? Going out tonight to the Continental Club? Food trailers? Anybody eating at any food trailers? Hamilton Pool.
Bingo. Bingo.
Is anybody need to take a break from these freezing conference rooms and go on the hike and bike trail?
Bingo.
Or go listen to some Shakespeare at the Hill, or watch Shakespeare at the Hillside Theater.
All right, I got it.
many have we done? Yeah, but Zilker Park is on the list.
It's like, what you got? What you need? What you got? What
All right, we'll do 3 more. Anybody gone for a dip in Ladybird Lake? I know. We're going zip lining on the Lake Trappist zip line. All right, last one. Everyone going out tonight to listen to live music. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for participating. We have a few minutes left, so the POs will be up here for you to ask your questions to directly. And if you remember, if you could flip over to the back of your bingo card, if you're open to us following up with you with conversation on one of those topics or any other topics you're interested in, please let us know. I'll be at the back with a box that you can drop those bingo cards into as you leave. All right, awesome. Thank you.
Prizes are here.
Oh, yeah.
You have
Get your
prize
prize.
card.